The ranch was quiet that afternoon. The sun was just beginning to dip behind the distant hills, painting the sky in soft orange and pink. Dust rose gently from the dirt paths as a light breeze moved through the fields. The rancher, a tall, sturdy man with calloused hands and weathered skin, moved along the fences, checking each post and wire. His life had always been simple: care for the land, feed the animals, and fix what was broken. He liked it that way. Peaceful. Predictable. As he approached the corner of the pasture, he noticed movement from the far side of the field. A woman was walking toward the ranch, her steps careful but determined. She carried something heavy wrapped in a thick cloth. The rancher squinted, trying to make sense of it. It was unusual to have visitors. People rarely came this far, not unless they had business, and even then, they usually called ahead. The woman's face was partially hidden by a wide-brimmed hat, but he could see her eyes, sharp, focused, and a little worried. There was a confidence in her walk, though, as if she knew exactly what she was doing despite the concern she seemed to carry. The rancher paused, leaning against the fence, feeling a strange mix of curiosity and caution. "Hello," he called, his voice carrying across the field. "Can I help you?" The woman stopped a few feet away, adjusting the bundle in her arms. She looked at him with a mixture of relief and hesitation. I hope so," she said softly. "There's something dangerous here. I need to remove it, but I can't do it alone." The rancher raised an eyebrow. "Dangerous? What kind of dangerous?" She hesitated, biting her lip. "Something that could hurt someone if it's not handled carefully. I thought, maybe you could help me." He took a slow step closer. The rancher was used to fixing problems, broken fences, sick animals, things like that. But this felt different. There was a tension in the air, subtle but real. He noticed the way her hands trembled slightly as she held the bundle. "All right," he said finally. "Show me what it is. But keep your distance just in case." The woman nodded. She moved a little closer, keeping the bundle protected. Then she whispered almost to herself, "Hold on. I'll remove it." The rancher's heart skipped a beat. Something about her tone, calm but urgent, made him pause. He had a feeling that everything was about to change. He watched carefully as she knelt near the object. Her movements were precise, careful, almost like she had done this before. When she lifted the cloth, the rancher saw it. A small, injured animal caught in a rusted trap. It struggled weakly, its tiny paws brushing against the dirt, and let out a soft, frightened sound. The rancher's chest tightened. The animal was small, harmless by itself, but the trap was sharp, jagged metal that could cause serious harm if mishandled. "You knew what you were doing?" he asked, impressed despite himself. The woman nodded. "I've handled these before, but I didn't want to risk it alone." She looked up at him, her eyes steady. "Will you help me?" He studied her for a moment, then nodded. "All right. Step back and guide me." Together they worked slowly. She instructed him where to hold the trap, and he followed her directions. The animal whimpered but didn't struggle too much. It seemed to understand they were helping. Finally, after a few tense moments, the trap was opened and the little creature scrambled free, disappearing into the grass. The rancher exhaled deeply, wiping sweat from his forehead. "You handled that well," he said. "Not everyone could stay that calm." She smiled faintly, brushing dirt from her hands. "I've learned to stay calm when it matters most." For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. The rancher felt a strange shift inside him. He was used to the quiet life, used to thinking of the ranch as his world, but now, with her here, with the sudden danger removed, everything felt different. He realized that something about her presence had changed the air around him. It wasn't just the danger, it was the way she faced it, the way she handled herself. He couldn't explain it, but he sensed that life as he knew it was about to take a turn. Finally, she spoke. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I don't know what I would have done without your help." He nodded, brushing dust off his jeans. "It's nothing, but what brought you out here, really? You didn't just wander into my pasture for fun." Her expression softened, and she took a deep breath. "I needed a safe place, somewhere no one would disturb me. I had to remove that trap before it caused more harm. And I didn't have anyone else I could trust." The rancher studied her. There was honesty in her words, and he believed her. She wasn't asking for anything else yet, but he sensed there was more to her story, something she wasn't saying aloud. "Well," he said finally, "the ranch isn't much, but you've got a safe place here. For now." She looked up, her eyes meeting his. "For now?" she asked with a hint of a smile. For now, he repeated, a little unsure why the words felt heavier than he intended. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the land. The little animal had vanished into the brush, leaving only the memory of its struggle. The rancher and the woman stood in silence, listening to the sounds of the evening, crickets, the distant lowing of cows, the soft rustling of the wind through the grass. For the first time in a long while, the rancher felt something shift in his chest. He wasn't sure if it was curiosity, concern, or something more profound. All he knew was that he couldn't ignore the feeling. This encounter, brief as it had been, had changed something. The woman adjusted the hat on her head as if preparing for whatever came next. She looked at him again, her voice quiet but steady. I'll stay out of your way, I just needed to do this, he nodded. I understand, and you're welcome. But don't hesitate if you need help. You're not alone here. For a moment, neither spoke. The rancher watched the horizon, the sun now touching the hills, the sky glowing in fiery orange. He felt a strange certainty. Whatever happened next, his life would not be the same. He couldn't explain why, but he trusted the feeling. And somewhere deep inside, he realized that the simple, quiet life he had always known was about to change in ways he could never imagine. The evening settled over the ranch, and the two of them stood there side by side, a silent understanding forming between them. The danger had been removed, but something else, something bigger, was only just beginning. The sun had fully disappeared behind the hills, leaving the ranch bathed in the soft, cool light of early evening. The air smelled of dry grass and earth, and the sound of crickets filled the silence. The rancher stood near the old wooden barn, glancing occasionally at the woman. She was sitting on a low stone wall, brushing dirt off her sleeves, but her eyes were alert, scanning the fields. I should probably show you where I'm staying, she said after a moment, her voice low but steady. The rancher nodded. You're welcome to stay in the guest cabin. It's small, but it's safe. No one bothers anyone there. She gave a faint smile. Thank you. I appreciate it. He led her down the narrow dirt path toward the cabin, a small structure tucked near the edge of the property. It had a tin roof and a wooden porch, but inside it was neat and tidy. The rancher had kept it for visitors or workers who might need a place to rest. As she stepped inside, she glanced around, taking in the simple furnishings. A bed with a worn quilt, a small table, and a chair near the window. It's perfect, she said softly. The rancher shrugged. It's not much, but it's better than the weather outside. You'll be safe here tonight. She paused at the door, looking at him. I should explain more about what happened today. He leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. Go ahead. I'm listening. She took a deep breath. The trap. It wasn't just set here by accident. Someone put it there. I was trying to remove it before it hurt an animal. Or worse, a person. I've been tracking it for days, and it led me here. The rancher's brow furrowed. Tracking it? You mean someone setting traps around this area? She nodded. Yes, and I think whoever did this didn't expect anyone to interfere. I wasn't careful at first, but I've learned to be cautious. I can't risk making a mistake. He studied her carefully. There was a seriousness in her eyes that told him she wasn't exaggerating. She wasn't here for attention or help with a small problem. This was real, and it was dangerous. You're lucky you came across my ranch, he said slowly. If that trap had caught someone worse than a small animal, it could have been serious. I know, she replied, her voice almost a whisper. That's why I needed help, and thank you for trusting me. The rancher shook his head. No, thank you. Most people wouldn't know what to do in that situation. You stayed calm and handled it. I've seen a lot over the years, but I was impressed by how steady you were. She looked down, her fingers twisting slightly. I've had to learn life. It teaches you quickly. For a few moments, neither spoke. Outside, the wind rustled the trees, and the ranch felt both calm and alive with quiet tension. The rancher wondered about her story, how she had ended up here, and what kind of danger had followed her. Finally, she spoke again. I can't stay long. I just need a place to rest and plan my next steps. The rancher nodded. That's fine. No one will bother you, and if you need anything, let me know. You don't have to handle this alone. She looked up, meeting his gaze. I know, that's why I came here. There's something about this place. It feels safe. He felt a strange warmth at her words. He had spent so many years alone on the ranch, relying only on himself. But now, hearing her trust him, he realized how much he valued the connection forming between them. I'll make some coffee, he said finally. We can talk more while we wait for the evening to settle." She smiled faintly and nodded. He went inside the main house, filling the kettle and preparing 2 mugs. When he returned, the smell of strong coffee filled the cabin, adding a sense of comfort to the quiet tension that lingered. They sat across from each other at the small table, sipping the coffee. The rancher watched her carefully, noting the careful way she moved, the alertness in her eyes, and the faint scars on her hands that hinted at experience and hardship. "Tell me more about why someone set the traps," he asked gently. "Who would do such a thing?" She hesitated. "I'm not sure yet. It could be someone careless or someone with a purpose. I've seen patterns before, people who think the land is theirs to control. But this one, it felt deliberate, and that's why I had to come here where I knew I could act safely." The rancher nodded slowly. "I understand. You're careful. I respect that. But if someone is deliberately putting danger here, we need to think about what comes next." She met his gaze, her eyes steady. "I know, and I was hoping. Maybe you could help me prepare. You know this land better than anyone. You know how to handle unexpected situations." He hesitated for a moment. Helping her could bring complications, maybe even danger, to the ranch he had always protected, but he couldn't ignore the trust she placed in him, nor the calm determination that had impressed him earlier. "All right," he said finally. "We'll figure it out together, but we need to be smart about it. I won't let anyone or anything threaten this place or you." A quiet smile touched her lips. "Thank you. That means more than you know." The evening grew darker, and the rancher showed her around the property, pointing out safe spots, water sources, and the places where danger could appear. He shared stories of his past experiences on the ranch, storms, wild animals, unexpected visitors, and she listened carefully, absorbing every detail. By the time they returned to the cabin, a bond had begun to form. It wasn't just about trust or respect, it was about understanding. They both realized that the coming days would test them, and they would need to rely on each other in ways neither had expected. As they settled in for the night, the rancher stood at the doorway looking out over his land. The moon hung low in the sky, casting silver light across the fields. He felt a strange sense of anticipation, a feeling that tonight was only the beginning. Somewhere in the shadows, the trap she had removed earlier seemed small compared to the challenges that lay ahead. But for the first time in a long while, the rancher felt ready to face the unknown, ready to protect the land, and the woman who now trusted him. And somewhere deep inside, he knew that life, as he had always known it, was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. The next morning, the rancher woke before sunrise, the soft glow of dawn creeping over the hills. He moved quietly through the barn, feeding the animals and checking the fences as he always did. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of earth and dew. Even though he had done these routines countless times, today felt different. There was a sense of alertness he hadn't felt in years, a feeling that something was about to happen. The woman had been awake for a while as well, sitting by the cabin window and watching the horizon. When he stepped outside, she turned and gave a small smile. "Morning," she said, her voice calm but thoughtful. "Morning," he replied. "Did you sleep well?" "As well as I could," she said. "But I couldn't stop thinking about yesterday, the trap. Whoever said it isn't done." The rancher nodded, understanding immediately. He had faced unexpected dangers on his land before, but this felt different. Someone had deliberately placed that trap, and now it seemed likely they would return, or leave something else behind. "We need to be prepared," he said, his tone steady. "I'll show you where the other traps could be, and we'll think about how to stay safe." She nodded, following him as he led her across the ranch. He pointed out areas where wildlife often wandered, low places near streams where a person could hide, and high spots that offered a clear view of the property. "If anyone tries to set something dangerous again," he explained, "these are the places we need to watch. You need to see everything all at once." She listened carefully, absorbing every detail. Her eyes scanned the land like a map, memorizing paths, fences, and possible hiding spots. He could tell she was intelligent and methodical, not just reacting but planning ahead. It impressed him. After walking for a while, they returned to the cabin. She set down her bag and opened it, revealing a few tools, gloves, a small flashlight, and a sturdy rope. "I want to be ready," she said. "If anything else is out there, I need to handle it quickly and safely." The rancher studied her. "You're serious about this?" "I can see that. But don't forget, you're not alone anymore. We handle it together." Her eyes softened. "I know, I didn't know if I could trust anyone, but you, I think I can." They spent the next few hours preparing. The rancher checked fences and reinforced weak spots, while she inspected tools and discussed possible scenarios. There was an unspoken rhythm to their work, a growing understanding. It wasn't just about safety, it was about teamwork, about knowing they could rely on each other. By midday, the sun was high and the ranch felt alive with quiet energy. Suddenly, a movement near the edge of the property caught the rancher's eye. A shadow flitted behind a grove of trees. He tensed, stepping closer to the woman. "Did you see that?" he whispered. She nodded, her expression alert. "Yes, someone or something is there. We should be careful." The rancher took a deep breath. He had lived in these lands for years, but the feeling of real danger was rare. He felt it now, subtle but undeniable. Together they moved slowly, approaching the grove. The woman held the rope tightly, ready to act, while he kept his eyes on the shadows. As they got closer, they realized it was not a person. A young deer had wandered too close to the fence and was caught in some low wires. Its legs struggled against the constraint and its eyes were wide with fear. The woman stepped forward gently. "Hold on. I'll remove it," she whispered. "Just like yesterday." The rancher watched closely, his heart beating faster. She moved carefully, untangling the wire without startling the deer further. The animal's struggle slowed as she worked with steady hands. Finally, with one careful lift, the deer was free. It hesitated for a moment, then darted into the trees. "Good work," the rancher said quietly. "You handled that perfectly." She looked up, a faint smile on her lips. "Thank you. I've learned that calmness matters more than strength." He nodded, feeling a growing respect for her. She was not only brave, but intelligent, precise, and thoughtful. He had faced many challenges alone on the ranch, but with her presence, he realized he could handle more than he had imagined. As they walked back to the cabin, the rancher couldn't help but notice how their connection was deepening. It wasn't just about survival or work. It was about understanding, trust, and mutual respect. She had come into his quiet, predictable life and shifted it just like that. Inside the cabin, they prepared a simple lunch together. The conversation was light, but there was an underlying tension in both of them. Neither spoke about the shadow in the grove. They both knew it was a reminder that the danger had not disappeared. After lunch, the rancher suggested they take a short rest. He expected her to retreat to the bed, but she stayed by the window scanning the horizon. "You're always alert," he said, noticing her focus. "I have to be," she replied. "It's part of why I came here. I can't afford to let my guard down." He admired her determination. It reminded him of the quiet strength he had always valued in the land itself. The fences, the fields, the animals. Everything required care, attention, and patience. And here she was, applying the same qualities to herself, quietly, without complaint. Later that afternoon, they heard a distant noise, a rustling in the trees near the edge of the property. Both of them froze, exchanging a look. The rancher motioned for her to stay calm. "Could be an animal," he whispered. "Could be nothing. But we stay ready." Together they approached the edge of the trees, moving carefully. The noise repeated, a snapping branch, a scuffle of leaves. And then they saw it, another small trap, partially hidden in the grass. Whoever had set the first trap was still active. The woman's eyes narrowed. "I thought I got them all," she muttered. "No," the rancher said firmly. "They're back. But we're ready this time." She nodded, her fingers tightening around the rope. They worked together quickly, disarming the trap before it could catch anything. Their movements were precise, almost instinctive, as if they had done this hundreds of times. When it was done, they stepped back, breathing heavily. The rancher felt a mixture of relief and adrenaline. "We handled that well," he said. "Yes," she replied, her voice steady but quiet. "We make a good team." The sun began to set again, casting long shadows across the fields. As they walked back to the cabin, both felt a sense of accomplishment, but also a realization. The danger was not over. Whoever had set these traps was clever, and they had not finished. And yet the rancher no longer felt alone. He had someone by his side who could think, act, and survive. Someone he could trust. And for the first time in a long while, he felt ready, not just to protect his land, but to face whatever came next, together. That night, As the stars began to appear over the ranch, the woman sat quietly on the porch looking at the sky. The rancher joined her, standing close but not too close, respecting her space. "You've changed my routine," he said lightly, a faint smile on his face. "And you've changed mine," she replied softly, "in ways I didn't expect." They both fell silent, letting the quiet of the night settle around them. The danger might still be out there waiting in the shadows, but for now, they had each other. And that knowledge, trust, teamwork, and a shared sense of purpose felt more powerful than fear. The rancher knew this was only the beginning. Whatever challenges awaited, he no longer had to face them alone. And in the quiet of that night, with the wind through the trees and the stars above, he felt a strange certainty. Life on the ranch, and his own life, was about to change forever. The morning light was pale and soft as it filtered through the trees. The rancher moved across the fields, checking fences and watching over the livestock. The events of the past 2 days had left him alert, but he also felt a strange sense of calm. He had someone by his side who could think and act with him, and that gave him confidence. The woman had been awake for hours, inspecting the tools and ropes they had used to disarm the traps. She looked up as he approached. "I checked the perimeter again," she said. "Everything seems quiet. For now." "Quiet is good," the rancher replied. "But I have a feeling this isn't over. Whoever set those traps isn't finished." Her eyes narrowed. "I thought I had them all, but maybe they're testing me." "Or testing us," the rancher studied her. She was cautious but determined, and that combination made her strong. "Well," he said slowly, "we won't let them get the better of us. Not here, not on this land." They walked together toward the far end of the property. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of wildflowers and damp earth. Birds sang from the trees, unaware of the tension beneath the quiet beauty. As they approached a low hill near the edge of the pasture, the rancher froze. There, barely visible in the tall grass, was another trap, but this one was different. It was larger, more complicated, and clearly intended for a bigger animal, or even a human. The woman's eyes widened. "They're escalating," she whispered. "They want to see if anyone dares to interfere." The rancher nodded. "We'll handle it. But we need a plan first." Together they studied the trap, noting the sharp edges and the way it was anchored into the ground. The woman knelt carefully examining it while the rancher held his breath, ready to act if anything went wrong. "All right," she said finally. "We need to work together. You hold this part steady, and I'll release the tension slowly." The rancher followed her instructions carefully. Every movement was deliberate, every step calculated. The trap's mechanism creaked and groaned, but neither of them panicked. Finally, with one careful lift, the trap was neutralized. They both exhaled, the tension leaving their bodies in a rush. The rancher looked at the woman, impressed by her skill and calm. "You've done this before, haven't you?" he asked. She nodded quietly. "I've had to handle dangerous situations before, but I never expected to find someone who could watch my back." He felt a warmth in his chest at her words. "Well, you've got it now, and I'll keep it that way." As they walked back toward the cabin, the rancher noticed movement at the edge of the trees. This time it wasn't an animal. A figure was watching them, hidden among the shadows. "Someone's out there," he whispered, his hand instinctively moving toward the tool belt at his waist. The woman's eyes were sharp, scanning the edge of the woods. "Yes, and I think they're waiting for the right moment." The rancher's heart pounded. He had dealt with unexpected visitors before, but this felt different. This person or people were deliberate, patient, and dangerous. "We need to be smart," he said. "We can't just confront them blindly." The woman nodded. "I agree. Let's move inside and plan." Back at the cabin, they sat at the small table, laying out maps and marking the areas where the traps had been found. The rancher suggested strategies to protect the livestock and monitor the property, while the woman proposed ways to disarm future traps quickly and safely. Hours passed as they worked together, their minds focused on the task at hand. There was no room for mistakes. Every suggestion, every decision mattered. And as they collaborated, the bond between them grew stronger. It was no longer just trust. It was teamwork, built on mutual respect and understanding. Late in the afternoon, the rancher stepped outside to check the perimeter. The woman followed, keeping a careful eye on the edges of the fields. The sun was low now, casting long shadows across the land. Suddenly, a loud snap echoed from the far pasture. The rancher froze, and the woman instinctively crouched behind a small hill for cover. "What is it?" he whispered. The woman pointed toward a broken fence post. "Something triggered it. It's not dangerous this time, but it's a warning. They're here, watching." The rancher felt a surge of determination. "Then we make sure they see us ready. Not afraid, not weak." They moved together, positioning themselves where they could observe the land while remaining hidden. Hours passed, the quiet tension stretching between them. The rancher felt the adrenaline, the kind that came before confrontation. He realized how much he relied on her instincts now, how much he trusted her judgment. As dusk approached, they noticed movement near the tree line. Shadows shifted and a figure stepped forward, clearly observing. The rancher's hand tightened around a sturdy wooden stick, while the woman readied the rope. The figure did not advance further. It was as if the person or people were testing them, measuring their strength, patience, and resolve. "They're clever," the woman whispered. "They won't act until they're sure." The rancher nodded. "Then we'll give them a reason to hesitate." They stayed in position, calm and alert until the last light faded and the stars appeared. The figure eventually disappeared into the shadows, leaving the ranch in quiet once more. The woman let out a slow breath. "They'll try again. I'm sure of it." "I know," the rancher replied. "But now they've seen us together. Strong, ready, and aware. That changes everything." Inside the cabin, they prepared a simple meal, but neither could eat much. Their minds were focused on the threat, on strategies, and on the realization that they were no longer facing this alone. The rancher looked at the woman as she checked the windows and doors. "You've changed how I see this land," he said quietly. "It's not just property to protect anymore. It's something bigger now, and you're part of that." She met his gaze, her expression softening. "And you've changed how I see myself. I don't feel alone here. I feel capable, ready for whatever comes next." They fell silent, the weight of the day settling around them. Outside, the wind rustled the trees, carrying the promise of another challenge. But inside there was a quiet confidence. Together they were stronger. As night fully descended, the rancher stepped to the porch, looking at the darkened fields. Somewhere out there, the person who had set the traps was still watching, waiting. But he no longer felt fear. He felt readiness. The woman joined him, standing side by side. They didn't speak, but the unspoken understanding was clear. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The rancher felt a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. The danger was real, the threat persistent, but the connection they shared made him stronger. And in the quiet of the night, under the stars, he knew one thing with certainty. Life on the ranch would never be the same again. Whatever challenges awaited, he and the woman were ready. And that was enough for now. The next morning, the rancher rose early as usual, but today felt different. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of earth and grass, and the sun cast long shadows across the fields. He moved with purpose, checking fences and observing the land with a sense of alert calm. The previous days had shown him that the world could be unpredictable, and that danger could come quietly. But he no longer felt alone. The woman was already outside, kneeling near the barn with her bag of tools. She glanced up as he approached. "Morning," she said softly. "I think I know how to handle whatever comes next." He nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and relief. "Good, we'll face it together." That's the only way. They spent the morning preparing the ranch. They checked all the fences, reinforced weak spots, and carefully examined every path and shadow where a trap or a visitor might hide. The woman moved with confidence now, her experience and calm demeanor guiding their actions. The rancher watched her, silently impressed by her courage and intelligence. By mid-morning, everything seemed ready. The rancher and the woman positioned themselves near the edge of the main pasture, eyes scanning the horizon. The land was quiet, but both knew it could change in an instant. Suddenly, a shadow moved near the tree line. The rancher's heart raced, but he held his ground. The woman tightened her grip on the rope in her hands, steady and calm. The figure stepped out into the open. It was a young man, perhaps in his early 20s, carrying tools and looking nervous. He froze when he saw the rancher and the woman. "You," the rancher said, voice firm. "What are you doing here?" The young man swallowed hard. I didn't mean any harm," he stammered. "I was just curious. I thought the land was abandoned." The woman stepped forward, her voice calm but strong. "You've been setting traps. That's dangerous. You could have hurt someone or an animal." Why are you doing this? The young man looked down, ashamed. I didn't think. I wanted to see if I could do it. I didn't know anyone would stop me. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. The rancher studied him carefully. He could see the fear and regret in the young man's eyes. He had dealt with careless people before, but this one seemed genuinely remorseful. All right, the rancher said finally. You're lucky we're here. You need to understand something. This land is alive. It's not a playground. Every action has consequences. You could have been seriously hurt. The young man nodded, his eyes wide. I understand. I'm sorry. I won't do it again. The woman stepped closer, her tone gentle but firm. You need to leave now. Go home and think about what you've done. Learn from it. And never come back with traps again. He nodded quickly, turning and moving back toward the tree line. The rancher and the woman watched until he disappeared from sight. When they were sure he was gone, the woman let out a long breath. That could have gone badly, she said quietly. The rancher shook his head, a faint smile on his lips. It didn't, and we handled it together. For the first time in days, the ranch felt calm again. The threat had been real, but it had passed. And in facing it, both of them had grown stronger, not just in skill, but in trust. They spent the rest of the afternoon walking through the fields, checking on the animals and repairing any small damage caused by the traps. The rancher showed the woman his favorite spots, the small stream behind the barn, the grove of trees where he liked to rest, and the hilltop with the best view of the land. She listened, asked questions, and shared her own thoughts about life, survival, and courage. As the sun began to set, they sat together on the porch of the cabin, looking over the fields bathed in golden light. The rancher felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. Life on the ranch had always been simple, predictable, and safe. But now it was richer, deeper, and more meaningful. You've changed my life, he said quietly. And you've changed mine, she replied, her eyes reflecting the sunset. I didn't think I could trust anyone but you. You made me feel safe. You showed me that I don't have to face everything alone. He smiled, feeling warmth spread through his chest. We make a good team. I don't think I realized how much I needed that. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the wind through the trees and the soft sounds of the ranch settling for the night. There was no danger now, only the quiet rhythm of life and the bond they had formed. Finally, the woman spoke. I should stay for a while longer, she said. I need to make sure the traps are gone and that this land stays safe. But I think I can trust it, and you. The rancher nodded. You're welcome to stay. The ranch isn't just land, it's home. And you're part of it now if you want to be. A soft smile spread across her face. I'd like that, she said. The stars began to appear in the night sky, and the rancher felt a sense of contentment. The danger had passed. But something else had arrived, connection, trust, and the realization that life was richer when shared. They spent the evening talking quietly, sharing stories of their pasts, their dreams, and the lessons they had learned. The rancher told her about storms he had survived and animals he had cared for, while she shared stories of places she had been, dangers she had faced, and lessons she had learned along the way. By the time they went inside the cabin, both felt a deep sense of understanding. They had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty together, and they had emerged stronger. The ranch was safe, the land was quiet, and for the first time in a long while, both felt truly at peace. As the night settled over the ranch, the woman looked out the window at the fields bathed in moonlight. The rancher joined her, standing quietly. Tomorrow will be another day, he said softly. And we'll face it together, she replied. He nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. Life on the ranch had changed in ways he could never have imagined. It was no longer just about land and livestock. It was about trust, courage, and the bond they had formed. And in the quiet of the night, under the stars, he realized that everything had changed. The danger had passed. But the true story, the connection, the trust, and the shared courage was just beginning. They stayed side by side watching the moon rise over the fields, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it together. The ranch, once quiet and predictable, was now alive with hope, trust, and the promise of new beginnings.